Welcome to Embracing Infinity, exploring the infinite oneness in the space of love and truth. Host Jennifer Rose is an international spiritual medium, healer, channeler, mentor, and transformational guide. Her focus is encouraging individuals to know themselves within the lens of their divine heart and highest potential, to evolve within the frequency of love and peaceful harmony. Now, here's your host, Jennifer Rose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Embracing Infinity on the Sacred Spiral Network. I'm Jennifer Rose, and so happy to be with all of you this beautiful summer Friday. I love summer. I love sunshine, so it's a lot of fun to be connecting here with all of you today, too. And I hope you all are doing very well and getting ready for a lovely weekend ahead. So whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, welcome to the show. I'm Jennifer Rose. And I'm very excited to shortly be bringing on my special guest, Suri Sawyer. She's joining us from Costa Rica, and she is a lovely and beautiful soul. We're going to have a lot of fun together. You're all going to want to get your thinking caps on because this is an interactive show that you're all going to be able to participate in, and you're going to find it very fun and enlightening as well. A couple of quick announcements. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you. Very good. Hi, and Amy's on here too. Hi, Amy. Great. So happy you guys are here. Thank you for coming. Cappy's coming in too. Hello, Cappy. So how are all the angels doing today? We're all here together, so that's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for coming and joining us here today. A couple of quick announcements. If you're in the Southern California area, myself and our lovely producer of the network, Kelly Brickle, and my soul sister, Debbie Romero, we're going to be setting up a tour of California, actually. And our first stop is going to be in Orange County, which is in Tustin. And we will be doing a live in-person demonstration this Sunday. So that's something that's posted on all of our pages that you can find about if you'd like to join us there as well. Please also check out Kelly's shows on Wednesdays and Friday afternoons, and Debbie Romero is on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific as well. So lots of fun shows for you to keep learning and growing and exploring and just joining in the fun and the interaction. So again, so happy that you all are here today. I would like to share with you some things. You know, I do a little bit of a talk in the beginning. I want to say hi to Jennifer McCormick and Fran, who's just joined us. Hello, Fran's my girl. She does the Mrs. Doubtfire impersonation. If you could hear it in person, it's quite delightful. It makes me laugh every time. So I know that's what she's doing right now. So anyways, I found something that just popped up in my memories. This happens a lot. It's the divine synchronicity of messages, of things that I channel or things that come to us. And then they show up again a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. And you realize like, oh my gosh, this is totally relevant for right now. Like this is what like we need to hear right now. So it's a reminder of the cyclical nature of the spiritual human experience. And it's also a reminder that these lessons that we learn and the growth that we attain just keeps elevating and going deeper. And it also is that reminder that there is that divine intelligence that we are a part of. And that is something that we can kind of learn to surrender to and be part of, working together as a partnership versus feeling the separation that brings forth a lot of anxiety, especially when we're in times or experiencing external circumstances that affect our nervous system. Going back into the flow of grace. This is one of the message that Spirit brought forth in my last meditation that I did, where I do a channeled meditation. They talked a lot about wrapping grace around situations and around the world. So if things are going on in your external world that you feel kind of out of control into, or if you're feeling like sort of pretty rigid in your perspective and it's causing you a lot of anxiety or causing separation from other people, there is an invitation from spirit to take a little step back and consider the return to love, as we spoke of last week with Lima, and the extension of grace, wrapping that around the world, wrapping that around situations, wrapping that around people of like-minded or not like-minded natures for you, and then giving that to yourself as well. So something to consider, that grace is an element that is very present right now. I want to give a hello to Bernie, who's joined us as well. Thank you for being on here, Bernie. So with that, if you'll indulge me and let me just read this little memory that came up. And it came up a few years ago when I looked up into the clouds and I saw what could be the shape of a big, beautiful bird or an angel. So it's all in sort of the eye of the beholder, but it was quite magnificent. And I posted it. So if you go onto my page, you can just scroll a little bit and you can find it and see what it means to you. But I would love to just read sort of what I channeled when I posted that little photo and what spirit brought forth through me with that. So if you'll just listen for just a moment, it's short, but it's a beautiful message. So here we go. There is a space that allows us to see, know, and understand clearly. It is those moments where you feel that comfort inside of you that everything is all right. It is to be in the eye of the storm where you can remain still and calm. It feels free without confusion because hope, faith, and grace gives us a glimpse beyond the veil of illusion. These moments may be fleeting, but they are precious. It is in these moments, in this space, where we have transcended what we call reality and are once again experiencing ourselves as spirit. It is the higher knowing of us that understands there is a plan, a path, a journey, a story to be told. And in this story, there will be joy and pain, triumph and tragedy, and much of the time, nothing will make sense. That higher knowing of us knows the story and knows there is a destination, a happy ending. That happy ending is always love. Our entire evolution as a story of humanity is about the expansion of love. Destruction and creation are one and the same because the result is always more love. The angel, the blackbird, the white dove, and the blazing phoenix are all one in the same, messengers of love in different costumes. You are love. That is the space where it all becomes clear and you know everything is all right. The wrong that you experience and witness is your calling to be part of the love expansion. Make it better in your own special way. Do your part. Make a difference. Be of service. And please love your sweet divine self. The world is a beautiful place. Your life is a beautiful existence. And the Great Spirit is always within you and around you and loving you because it is you. Divine, infinite, eternal, and beautiful you. Always. Thank you for listening and allowing me to share that with you. It felt very appropriate, and so I'm always amazed and grateful to Spirit for the messages that they bring and the reminders, because we do always need to be reminded of these things sometimes. Thank you all for your lovely comments, and I see Angela's joined us. Hey, y'all, good to see you, girl. See Jennifer saying you could see the angel, the phoenix, the eagle. Oh, thank you, love. I so appreciate it. I so appreciate it. Um, so I hope that if anyone's feeling a little bit of, anxiety or overwhelm, um, it's that may bring some peace. It's an invitation to take a step back and kind of looking at things from a little bit of a different perspective, taking a breath, and remembering spirit is here. They're not separate from us. They're involved, and surrendering to the higher knowing that there's some kind of plan and we will understand it at some point, and then doing our part and bringing more love. The more love we can bring to situations and kind of take a step back from the it it will help. But everything has a purpose. And what's beautiful about this is that Suri, who's going to be joining us shortly, is going to show us how all of the different perspectives, the different sides of things have a purpose and work together. So we take away sort of the wrong and the right of everything and see like the bigger plan of everything. So it's going to be quite lovely. So I'm very, very happy with that. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel complete with that. Like I feel like just reading that is enough, and we can just move forward and bring on my beautiful, lovely guest, Suri Sawyer. She is joining us from Costa Rica, which is very exciting, and bringing some beautiful healing energy our way. So let's all bring Suri in.
Good day,
Hi.
everyone, or good evening, wherever you are.
Hi, Suri. How are you doing? Beautiful.
I am fantastic. It's a beautiful day, and we are temporarily not raining, so the sound quality should be fantastic.
Okay. Well, that worked out nicely, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, is it very warm there right now in Costa Rica? Like, what's like the climate and the weather like? It's been, different around the world lately.
Very different. So I live in the mountains of Costa Rica. I think oftentimes people think of the tropical beaches when they think of Costa Rica, but Costa Rica is actually mostly mountains. So I live up in the mountains, so it's a little colder, and it's the rainy season right now. So we have a good amount of rain daily, and it's sunny in the morning, and then it starts raining, and then it will usually rain for the rest of the day. But right now we have a break and I see blue skies. So this is exciting.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm a big lover of summer rain. So just like that kind of like warm, humid climate and then the rain coming. Oh, it just feels so wonderful. I love it.
The
So,
thunderstorms have been like just incredible. Yesterday there was lightning like right around where I could see the strike around the house. And
uh-huh.
then the thunder was so intense, like the house was shaking. Um,
Wow.
I was like, thank you, Mother Nature, for the cleansing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And it's like to witness that kind of power too. Like, and it's just another thing that reminds you like of the bigness that we're all part of too.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I just want to say hi. Nicole's just joined us, and Tracy's from Scotland as well. So hello. Thank you guys for coming on and joining us. So Suri, would you mind starting off with just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I would love to. So I currently, right now, the iteration of me, I'm a psychic healer as well as a mystic and death doula. My journey into mystic arts, I guess, started as a little kid. I felt a connection to something that I think many people do, nondescript, and over the years, it's had different labels or names, but the concept of feeling connected has been something I've felt for my whole life. And I grew up incredibly religious. And so I got a lot of indoctrination about death and had a lot of fears around death, which drove me to desire to understand it better. And what I found was like with a mystic perspective on death, it was like the window through to truly living. And that sort of takes us into this concept of polarity is that um, life and death are one in the same nature, but representing two different sides of one thing. And so to truly understand to live is to look into death. And I found myself exploring concepts of death and the other side, ancestors, mediumship. In some funny way, they're all kind of tied in together. I started studying Reiki and just the capacity within each of us to bring healing energy from source through us, either to ourselves or to another person or to a situation. And as I was studying that, it's very, for myself, there's not really words. The moment you start to describe some of these esoteric concepts is the moment you lose it. But as I was diving into understanding how I could be a vessel of loving, healing, balanced energy, I started to just sort of know things. And what I realized over time with my maybe clear cognizance was that a lot of the stuff I seemed to know fell under the category of the universal laws. And I didn't know about the universal laws as like healing energy was coming through me. Maybe I just understood that, oh, the energy that's coming through me right now is intended to allow this person to connect to source in places where they'd cut themselves off. And then I realized later, oh, this is correcting and adjusting their relationship to the law of mentalism. Or when somebody's going through something in life and they can't quite figure out why this thing keeps repeating itself. And they almost can't even see that there's a pattern going on. And the healing energy that would come through me would be adjusting an internal cause that was causing external havoc. And then you're like, oh, okay, so we're adjusting the relationship of the law of correspondence. And this is what this frequency feels like. Similarly, with the law of rhythm, I found that there would be, we'd be in a rhythm. Like every September, I get really depressed. Every January, I feel really, really great and uplifted. And if you look back over time, you can start to see, oh, it's like every September that this feeling comes. Oh, it's like every January that this feeling comes. And you start to recognize you're working on a rhythm. And there's actually a frequency of energy that can come through to adjust whatever rhythm you might be stuck on to generate and create new rhythmic patterns in your psyche, in your soul, and in your spirit. So that stuff started coming through me. And then I started writing about it. And then I started teaching about it. And here we are.
Oh my God, that's all fascinating. I just love that. 53 Abani is just joining us and he's finding this very remarkable. So look, we're we're having more insights already. That's just beautiful. I could probably talk to you for hours. So I'm bummed that this is just one short little hour, but I know we're going to make the most of it that we can. So I feel like what we'll get started with, and everybody who's watching, please remember to get your thinking caps on because we're going to need your help here on this one.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about polarity mapping, and Suri and I have, I've learned about this from Suri before, and you were on a Sunday service and we talked about this before too. So we've had some experience with it, and I found it fascinating because from the way that my journey has worked too is in the way that I've channeled spirit and come to know is that, we are in infinite perspectives of things too. And we don't have to see them all as, wrong or right, but understand how they relate to each other and then how that can bring us forth in our journey to elevate ourselves and our awareness too. Hello, Ronnie. Thanks for coming on. So we've got a lot more friends coming on. Okay. Yay. So with that, would you let us know what is polarity mapping? And I know you've have some illustrations to share from us.
Do.
So this is going to be a lot of fun, everybody.
You guys, I made you slides.
Yay!
So polarity mapping, polarity is one of the 7 universal laws that you can learn more about through the Kabbalion or Rosicrucian theory. So the law of polarity essentially states that everything exists in opposites. But they're all deriving from one nature. So the concept that temperature is one concept, but temperature can be expressed in innumerable ways, from extreme hot to extreme cold, and everything that's in between. And when we're talking about temperature, we can stay neutral, right? Like, I don't think anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone is really dead set on, no, it's hot or bust, or it's hot or it's cold or like, no, thank you. Unless we're talking about ice cream, because yes, it's cold or no, thank you. But there's something interesting that happens when we pick a side. We can polarize ourselves And when we think of the yin yang symbol as being one circle with two sides, that's something in its totality. It's representing a wholeness by representing the shadow and the light of a nature. But what we can do as humans is we can decide that one is good and one is bad. And it's the equivalent of taking a wholeness, hang on, there we go, and splitting it. And now you have these two things that are bumping up against each other, causing friction, whether that be just inside of you, having a friction within you, or it getting to correspondence, and now you have friction externally. A really good example of this would be when we look at the nature of creation. Creation energy can express itself as really depressed and not creating anything. There's no inspiration, there's nothing, it's kind of dark, it's compressive. And I would venture to imagine most people consider that bad. The extreme other side of creation would be total mania, right? And you're creating so many things. There's such great output. It's going so beautifully. And we can consider that robust creative state to be good. This would have us dueling natures, because when we are starting to feel more of the depressive aspect of creation, we think it's bad. We try to get out of it. And when we're in the full creative state, we think it's good and we want to hold on to it. And then we're causing a split inside of ourselves instead of allowing a wholeness. And this can also be looked at with happy and sad, right? Like, I would venture that most people think it's bad to be sad and good to be happy. And so anytime we're kind of picking a side to be good or bad, we're creating a polarization that can create vibrational conflict in our inner being. So I'm going to pull up some slides. Now, the funny thing about this, Jennifer, is I won't be able to see the comments. So as comments are coming in, will you share them with me if they're pertinent?
Absolutely.
Okay, beautiful. So here we have the law of polarity. We experience through opposites. We understand temperature because we have experienced hot and cold. If we had only one consistent temperature all the time, we would have nothing to talk about. And that hot and cold are two poles of the very same nature. And in between the poles, there's a spectrum to experience. And this applies with all natures. One very important aspect of this is spectrum awareness, identifying where you might be at any given point with a concept or idea. So if we look at this first line, it's the nature of temperature, and it's holding every possible thing as well as the extremes. And if we were talking about coffee, you can look at this scale and decide, where do I fall with coffee? Okay, I'm choosing to be sort of in that orange range. Where am I with ice cream? All right, I'm going toward the purple range. When we talk about the nature of light, again, we can come at the nature of light in a really neutral way. So when I go to sleep, I'm going to prefer to be on the dark side of the scale. When I'm drawing or painting or writing, I'm going to prefer to be toward the brighter side of the scale. So you can see that with things like temperature and light, we can move easily from one side of the polarity to the other without getting triggered necessarily. But what about this applied to other concepts, like the nature of creativity, feeling depressed and or manic? What about the nature of contentment, feeling disappointed or satisfied? So when we look at contentment, for example, let's say you had a conversation with someone and it left you feeling really disappointed. It's important to note, okay, on the spectrum of satisfied and disappointed, I'm definitely in the blue section. And or, oh, hey, this experience is going so well for me. I'm loving it. I'm recognizing that right now, mentally and emotionally, I'm on the red side of the scale. I'm feeling incredibly satisfied. So as we go through life, we can kind of get stuck in certain frequencies. And so with the nature of contentment, we may find ourselves consistently on the disappointed side of things, which would mean that we need to balance out the nature of contentment by identifying the frequency of feeling satisfied, and vice versa. So that is spectrum awareness, identifying where you're currently sitting on any kind of topic. And then that takes us in. So this is the map, you guys. This is the polarity map. And you can see in here, I put the words control and neglect. This actually came from a session that I did with someone recently, where they were working through essentially codependency. They were always feeling like they needed to be in control of situations. Otherwise, it felt like they were being neglectful to the people around them. And so we put these words in the system. And as you can see here, you fill out the quadrants. So you have to be able to understand what is good about being able to control a situation, while simultaneously understanding what could potentially be bad or unhealthy about control over a situation. Likewise, going to the sensation of neglect. What's bad about neglecting something or someone or a situation? Likewise, what could potentially be good about neglect? And that quadrant, I'm wondering how people respond to that one. What could possibly be good about the sensation of neglect? Right? Is that a challenging one to fill in?
I think it would be because when we people have a hard time, especially if it's something they feel very passionate about. It's like an ideal or an idea or a belief they feel very passionate about. To be able to let go of the control, and like I said, kind of go into that surrender. They think, doesn't that mean I don't care? And it's like, no, it
Mhm.
doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're relieving yourself of the anxiety of that, and knowing that you're not the only person who has to fix it, that we can just do our part and allow the universe to do its thing, so to speak. It just may not be in our time frame. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
I love that. Want to say hi real quick to Debbie and Michelle and Dolores, who joined us as well. Thanks for being here, everybody. So
Thank you
moving
guys
forward.
for watching. um, so with the four quadrants, it's oftentimes really easy to fill out two of them, but really difficult to fill out two of them. Like you could kind of tell,
Yeah.
right? So when we were looking at control and neglect, like, and maybe that's not even the best one, but like, let's look at happy and sad. When we're looking at the concept of happy, it might be challenging for us to fill out the quadrant that says, what's bad about happy? And then likewise, it might be challenging to fill out the quadrant that says, what's good about being sad? When we're working on a polarity map and we find a quadrant that's really difficult to fill in, that will show you where you're unable to hold the totality of an idea. And like not being able to fill out a certain quadrant is like, oh, there's my work. Like there is where I can find more neutrality in this polarity. Being neglect could be good for someone's growth. Yes, I agree with that. So I did some muscle testing this morning specifically for this group. So this is where we can become interactive, and I shall take notes on our behalf. And also you guys can take notes as well.
This is so
So
fun, you guys. I've done this before with Suri, and it's a lot. It's just fascinating to watch, and it's right up my alley. I have that same yin and yang patio furniture.
do you?
I do. So cute. I'll have to put a picture of it.
Please do. So the nature that we came up with today for the work is the nature of choice. So choice just being one thing, but on the spectrum of decision making, you can be really decisive and really indecisive. Let's see if this works. Is it backward? I made you guys a polarity
No, we
map.
can see it. Yeah, it's perfect. It's
Yay!
it's mirrored
The
perfectly.
nature of
Yay.
choice is what we're working with today. So in the polarity map, we'll start as a group together. So here's the question. We're going to work with the concept of decisive first, the ability to just cut through decision making and make those decisions and yes to this, no to that. I'm feeling so confident in my decision making. So, what is good about decisive? You guys can start filling it out in the chat. I would
Yes,
love
if
that.
you all could want to contribute and put things in the little chat box, and then we'll fill it out. So
Yeah.
I would think it would save time if you're decisive. You save time, and you can get readily, involved in whatever the next project is or whatever you're doing. It just seems like a time-saving factor as well
Yeah,
too.
I'm in agreement
Um,
with that.
mhm.
I also feel like being decisive helps with clarity, not just within yourself, but also when you're working with other people. Decisiveness brings clarity.
And it does make other people happy too, because, oh, a decision's being made, I don't have to make
Yeah.
it. So it gives other people calmness and confidence quickly. Michelle
Hmm.
says, move on quickly. Yes. Craig says, action solutions to solve problems.
Hmm.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for coming. Okay. No regrets. It can bring a sense of peace. You all are doing really, really well.
It's so funny with the no regrets one. I immediately want to do a whole other polarity map on regret.
I know, me too. It's fast. You could do a whole book
Um,
on them. Sacred Spiral, Kelly's saying to be in the flow with the energy of your will. That's
yes,
great.
yes, yes,
Ooh, I
yes,
know.
because it's like the
I knew
use of
that's
your
what you
will
meant.
like a sword.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I knew that's what you meant, Kelly. Craig is saying inspiring confidence in others. Yeah, so it helps the
Hmm.
people around you, like, oh, good, she made a decision. He made a decision. We're going that way. So
Yes. Beautiful.
it's
All right. So that feels pretty complete on the nature
Mhm.
of what's good about decisive. We have hearts. I'll put a heart
Yeah.
there.
I love
Okay.
hearts.
So we're going into the next quadrant below, which is what is bad about being decisive. And
Okay.
I would say like hasty decisions. It's so funny because with no regrets, I'd put regrets, right?
Yeah.
Like those quick
Yeah.
decisions where you're like, dang it, I wish I had more information. So I'm actually going to put
Yeah,
that all
exactly.
below.
That's what I was thinking too. Like you may wish in the future that you had thought it out more or done it differently, because new information came in or you saw the result and then wished that maybe you had been a little less decisive and a little more thoughtful. So
Right.
that could be. I'm feeling also like sometimes if you make a decision, maybe it could leave other people out of that decision. So they may feel excluded or um, overpowered.
Yes.
If we're talking
Overpowered.
in terms of relation to other people, if it's just an individual decision, then that's a different space. But if it's in relation to other people, like a group project or something like that, then that's potentially.
Yeah. I
Craig
see
is
Craig,
saying impulsive
impulsive.
mistakes driven by
Yes. Snap
ego.
decisions.
Michelle is saying snap decisions. Yeah,
Yeah. I
my
also
way
think
or
of
the
times when
highway.
my way.
That's
Oh, yes. Okay. So we're seeing a lot of egoicness in this aspect
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah. Angela is saying not taking time to see all sides or thinking it through. Yes, I just got a knock on my
Yes.
wall too. May seem bossy.
Ooh, bossy.
Yeah.
Oh, we're back to that concept of controlling, huh?
Imagine that. We're not human.
Reactive. Yeah, I know.
Reactive to the environment.
Reactive to the environment. Totally. I think sometimes
Yeah,
decisions are made based on like a heightened emotion, that
yeah.
are reactive. Yeah.
One thing that Spirit shared with me too is that sometimes if we're in protective mode, like if something's happened that's hurt our feelings, we go into a protective mode and the mind kind of takes over wanting to protect the heart. And it can act and portray itself as being very logical, making perfect sense. But it actually isn't necessarily the true story of what's really happening. But that's kind of like that protective part is wanting to take over so we don't look silly or make a fool of ourselves or something like that. And so that's
Yeah.
where that decision making can be clouded by the protective part of us that's trying to protect the innocent part of our heart as well.
Yeah, like what part of your programming is feeling like it's a good decision maker right now?
Yeah.
All right. So let us go now to the other half of our page, which is indecisive. So we're looking at that quality or way of being. And we're going to start with what is bad about being or feeling indecisive. The first thing I think of is anxiety.
Yeah.
where you know a decision needs to be made, but you can't make one. And so the anxiety builds up in your being.
Yep, that was mine too. It's frustrating for other people when they need you to make a decision too of other people. So
Mhm.
in relation to other people not being able to make a decision, it can invite judgment from other people as well.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to add to this in our group
Yeah,
here?
please. Speaking on, I think it was Katie, right? Sacred Spiral Network, who was
Oh,
saying,
Kelly.
Kelly. Kelly was saying that what's good about decisive is to be in good flow with your willpower. And so
Yeah.
I would transfer this right over and say being out of flow with your willpower and your ability to create.
Yes, yes. Craig is saying active creation of larger problems, afraid of
Mhm.
making a mistake. Yeah, that's a big one. I can't make a decision because I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to choose the wrong thing. What's that going to create? So that's where you're feeling like it's all up to you and that anxiety. So it's kind
Mhm.
it's almost like feeling like you need to be in control, which makes you feel out of control, you
Ah,
know?
wow. Yes. I know that feeling.
Impatient impatience from others. It reminds me of Eat, Pray, Love. Did you ever see the movie with
I didn't.
Julia Roberts? She goes to her medicine man and she says, "Oh, I broke up with my boyfriend because I couldn't keep my balance." And he says sometimes keeping being out of balance is part of the balance. And so then they made up and got back together after that. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, Angela Blackwell is saying stagnation, stagnation.
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah,
Angela.
that's a
I've
good
got you
one.
written down.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add? Yeah, those are all really, really good.
And
Okay.
we can move into the last quadrant for this one, which is what is good about being indecisive? One of the first things I think, it's one of my favorite quotes, but there's a billion numbered doors on the horizon now, which is the future you're choosing before you go dying. Sometimes when we wait to make a decision, what we're looking at is the field of infinite possibilities, right? But you can't sit there forever. Eventually, a decision does need to be made. But when you can hold off for a moment, it does allow the universe to present all these different beautiful choices that maybe your ego brain couldn't have surmised.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. And I was thinking kind of along the lines of what Kelly said too, that the opposite could also be true because if we haven't decided yet, it might not be the time to. So maybe staying in indecision is also serving that it's not time to make a decision yet. Like
Yeah.
there is an order of things, and then we're just kind of honoring that. Because sometimes you don't know until you know. Like you need to keep taking in that information, and it may take more time than you wish, but you don't know until you know. And then you're like, okay, now I know.
Mhm.
So
I was also thinking with what you said earlier at the beginning with grace, right? Like allowing
yeah,
grace to infiltrate the decision making, and sometimes that does take time and
yeah,
space.
yeah,
Patience can solve problems by doing nothing. I love
yeah,
that. Exactly. Sometimes you don't have to
yeah,
make a decision, and
yeah.
that's actually an ego illusion. Yeah,
Yeah.
patience.
Sometimes if you don't know what to do, it's because you're meant to do nothing. It's meant to stand still, just stand still in the moment and wait, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Okay. Perceived time is a great teacher. It really is, isn't it?
Right on,
All right.
Kelly. That's very true.
So the main frequency I'm getting from the what's good about indecisive is essentially like that's the space where spirit, universe, God can come in on your behalf. So I'm feeling like that's a beautiful
Yeah.
frequency. Potentials. All right. So the last quadrant, what's good about indecision is the least filled out. The other ones, there was like a big flood of energy that came in to fill them out. But this is the one that's coming back with just sort of like, I'm not sure. So if anyone else has a couple more, ooh, I love that. I love God
Oh,
coming
yeah.
in
Oh,
too,
yeah.
Craig.
So what's good about indecision? Invites help from other people, invites
Oh,
other people to come and help you make a decision, to give their thoughts. So then it becomes more of a partnership. Hi, Philum, good to see you.
yeah, invite
Yay, we
support
got
from.
another one.
Yay!
um, it also, and along the same lines, but invites us to seek more. Indecision would invite us to do more seeking, do more
Yeah.
asking, do more requesting of help.
Research and development, huh?
Yay.
All
Are we
right.
more filled out now?
Yes. Yes, I would say that each quadrant is equally full. So
Yay, thank you, Spirit, helping.
So here is our polarity map with all of its words and everything on it. You don't necessarily need to be able to read the words. It's just so that you guys have a context of how to play this game for yourself. So when we're working with a polarity in a map like this, when I do this, it's usually because someone's fighting with something inside, whether it be myself or a client, and they're having this, the nature is fighting itself. So you may have someone who is accustomed to being like a CEO of a company and they're needing to be decisive all the time. And that can polarize them to the point that they find great negativity in indecision. And it's frustrating to them and they don't like it and it slows down their whole process. But by deciding that indecision is bad, it creates more opportunities for snap decisions that are later potentially regrettable or you wish you had more information with. Likewise, you can become almost indecision paralyzed, where being decisive feels scary because you don't want to be bossy and you don't want to make the wrong decisions. And you need everyone to weigh in on every decision that you're making because you're afraid that there's a lack of trust. So someone can fall on that side of the category and look at the CEO who is incredibly decisive and find that behavior bad, while the CEO is looking at the very indecisive one being like, well, that's how are you getting anywhere, right? Now imagine that those qualities were actually simultaneously existing in you. And Shreem, yes, we will read it. Don't worry. Imagine that.
Shreem's wanting like a psychic reading. We're not actually
Oh,
doing readings in this particular show, but we're so happy that you're here, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of our conversation as well. So thank you for being here. But we will be talking about the chart a little bit, right? So yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So imagine that indecision decision battle was actually just inside of you. That there's two parts of you, because there's multiple parts of us inside.
Oh yeah.
But there's, you have your little innocent one being like, I don't know, there's a million potentials. Like I can't decide on one. While the warrior inside of you wants to just slice through decision making, like su, 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 su. And now you have an internal conflict, right? So, the polarity map game that I do here is usually when I found something going on inside of me where I'm in internal conflict, or someone that I'm working with is in internal conflict. And the basis of it is to allow us to find neutrality. There's a peacefulness in becoming neutral on a topic. There's a peacefulness in being able to say, oh, there's nothing bad or good about decision, and there's nothing bad or good about indecision. Each has their time and space when they're useful. So, here in the polarity map of decision and indecision, the good aspects of decision and being decisive are that you're in alignment with your willpower and you're able to channel it. You're saving time, you're experiencing clarity. You have no regrets, maybe. You can move quickly. There's solutions to problems. And when you're working with other people, it can create a sense of clarity and ease and allow people to move through a situation with grace and ease. What's bad about decisiveness is that it can create regrets. It can be impulsive and based on emotions or egos. It could be a snap response based on the stress of an environment. People might perceive you as being bossy or dictator like, And it can also, decision making can actually be programmed responses to protect the more vulnerable parts of ourselves. With indecision, what's bad about indecision is that it can create anxiety. It can be frustrating for yourself and people around you. When you're unable to make decisions, it can create internal judgment and external judgment. You're out of flow with your creative power and your willpower, stuck in the anxiety of fear of making the wrong choice. And yeah, okay. And then what's good about indecision is that you're open up to spirit. You're opening up to more potential options being available to you. You're practicing a deeper sense of patience. You're creating space to get more information. And like somebody said in the chat, sometimes not making a decision is exactly what you need to do, because sometimes there's nothing to do and time resolves itself. So what I have found in polarity mapping is that if it's something we're really bouncing back and forth on a lot, like some days I'm really decisive, some days I'm really indecisive, those two things are giving birth to each other. So you might have a season of life where you've been extremely decisive, and that can feel good, and you're in your creative energy and you're using your willpower and you're, yeah, yes, this is fantastic. But eventually what happens is you go from what's good about decisiveness into what's bad about decisiveness. So if I've spent a good week being slicey decisive with my warrior energy and it's feeling really good, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm really bossy. Oh my gosh, I did make some decisions that I regret now. Whoa, I was being impulsive. Like I don't like where that decisive nature got me to. And so we start up here and we travel down here, which then makes us go up here into this part, which is what's bad about indecisive. Because we've been slicing through, we're feeling so decisive and good about it. Then we realize, wait, I might have made some mistakes I'm not so excited about, which pushes us into the side of indecision, where now we're feeling what's not good about indecision. Now I'm feeling afraid of making the wrong choice again. Or now I'm feeling the judgment of having been so decisive and now I'm indecisive. Now I'm feeling the anxiety of not being able to make a decision. And if we're able to, that'll take us back down again to what's good about indecision. Now we can open ourselves up and allow spirit to come in. We can allow other perspectives to come in. We can allow time to do what time does. And so what we find is these are like seasons of a concept, and you're guaranteed to sit in all four of them at some point. So we go from really decisive and feeling good about it into, uh-oh, maybe that wasn't so great. Oh, now I'm feeling stuck and not able to make such clear decisions. Wait, now I can just breathe. And now decision making is back. And now I'm feeling decisive. Now I'm noticing the downside of decisiveness. Now I'm coming here. It can also go backward, where I'm really stuck in indecision. I can't make a choice. I'm feeling judged and anxious and all of these things, which eventually releases me into surrender, where I start to let spirit and other people help me and show me different possibilities, which allows me to come up here and make decisions, and then come here and go through it again.
Y'all
So
notice that infinite loop that she just did on her page? Did you
wait,
see
I got it on the
that?
slide. I'll show you here so you guys can see. This
And
is
we're
what
meant
it
to experience all of it, because
yes.
that's from the soul perspective. The soul of us wants all of it, we live in the land of opposites, and it could be big chunks of time or little chunks of time where we end up experiencing one or the other. We could spend half our life in control and the other half of our life in needing people to help us, if that makes sense too. I've noticed, because I'm a medium, so I see that in the different spans of lifetime. So beautifully illustrated. Thank you. Back to you, love.
So what's so interesting about when something is extremely polarized inside of us, what you're going to find is that we can get really stuck in one quadrant and stop utilizing essentially the flowing nature of its totality. So we can get stuck for a really long period of time in just what's good about decisiveness, and stay there for a while, and then go straight down to what's bad about decisiveness and just kind of oscillate back and forth and not allow ourselves to open up to the fullness of decisiveness and indecisiveness. Also, you can move through the quadrants really slowly. You might be in a season of decisiveness for 3 to 6 months, or maybe 3 to 6 years, and then find yourself in a series of indecision for 3 to 6 months or 3 to 6 years. And this is still operating under the context that the concepts are split within you. The beautiful aspect of spiritual alchemy is allowing more and more concepts to be held within you in their totality, where at some point there's actually no difference between decisive and indecisive. They're the same. And somehow you're able to sit in what's good about decisiveness and what's good about indecisiveness simultaneously. They're not separate. And letting the aspects of a nature merge within you, that's the concept of creating spiritual gold, for example. And to take it to another kind of emotion, it would be like being able to feel happy and sad simultaneously and just be okay with it, right? To feel creative and creatively repressed somehow simultaneously. And neither one feels good or bad. They just are states of being that you're holding all at once.
Yeah. I had a couple of thoughts as you were speaking too. Like, for instance, when sometimes we just like listening to a sad song, it's a sad song, but we're actually enjoying listening to it and just being one with the emotion. It's very cathartic. It's enabling us to kind of experience that emotion in a way that flows the energy, and we're not necessarily judging it. That's just like a little minute example, but it's very true. And I think of myself, there are some parts of my life that are going very well, and there's some parts that I would love to be better or have improvement on. And I seem to just be kind of like trying to stay okay with it all, because we do have all these parts, and then so there's the polarities of multiple different parts of things we're experiencing too. So it's like this decisive and indecisive, and then all these other concepts, and now we're in this big web of polarity that we're trying to like bring together. So how can we achieve more of this, the alchemy, the integration?
Yeah, the alchemy and the integration.
Yeah.
When earlier in the call, I was showing the lines of spectrum awareness. And that can be one of the greatest tools, is just exercising on a regular basis where you are at any given moment, and also where you are on a topic or situation. So when we're looking at, we'll take decisive and indecisive, for example, you might find that when you are at work, it's really easy for you to access the aspect of you that is decisive. And so you have that quality within you. And you can check in with yourself like, oh yeah, like right now I feel super capable of making clear, concise decisions. It's very easy in this moment. I'm aware that I am in decisiveness. Likewise, in relationships, you might start to get incredibly indecisive, not knowing what your heart wants. There's a lot of confusing emotion in there from past experiences. And all of a sudden you become very watery and it's hard to make decisions. Noticing in that moment, oh, wow, in this field of my life, I'm showing up like this. And so that is, I think, for myself, the very first basis is finding out where I am standing on the polarity of a situation. When I think about, for example, that concept of being disappointed or satisfied, right? And that can, like you were saying, there's all these different aspects of my life, right? So I could say I'm extremely satisfied with where I live. So on the scale of the spectrum, I'm way over here. But then I might say, oh, but as far as it goes with like being able to visit my family and whatnot, I'm very dissatisfied. So on that scale, I'm way over here. And I get to observe where I am on a scale of emotion and see that I'm not neutral. I'm not neutral about where I live. I'm not neutral. That interaction made me feel very disappointed. I'm noticing I'm not neutral about that. Um, and I'm way over here and disappointed. Okay, so now I know that I've polarized myself and I get to dance with that. So I'm in dissatisfaction. What's good about being here and what does it show me and what does it teach me? Okay, so now I know I don't like being spoken to that way, for example, or I don't like when people are late. Okay, so I've identified some things about myself. And just by doing that, somehow it brings me back into neutrality. Like at the moment I catch myself on a far side of the spectrum, my awareness of that, oh, hey, yeah, that is disappointing. And it brings me back into a neutral state. When I'm unable to find neutrality on a topic, like I've been really triggered by something and I'm just believing, no, this is only bad. There's no good in this whatsoever. I stop and I'm like, whoa, I'm seeing me, my individualized avatar Suri personality. This is me. Like I'm really opinionated and emotional about whatever this is. And I'm unable to come to the neutral perspective on this. That is when I'll go and make a polarity map so that I can show myself where I'm standing, what quadrant am I standing on. Yes, my being is believing this is only bad. So I need to show my psyche and show myself by practicing out this map that there actually are other perspectives, other angles, and other ways to view this thing. And then assist myself to move through that infinity sign with a little bit more speed and grace instead of deciding to like hunker down inside one of the four quadrants and not move. I'll take myself through the process so that I can show myself that I'm looking at something as one-sided.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's funny because last week on the show, I brought up the song by the Birds called "Turn, Turn, Turn." There's a time to this and a time to that. So it's kind of like almost a precursor because, you know, and another thing that came forth is we've just moved into the age of Aquarius. So there's this came up a couple days ago too with spirit, is there's this expectation of us all being, super together and brotherhood, sisterhood, just like that. But then now we're experiencing a lot of conflict this later half of the year because of world events and things that are going on too. And so things are like more polarized again. And some of us are watching that going, oh, that hurts to watch that, because we're wanting we're wanting everybody to get along and be in the loving state too. So it brings forth. What I'm saying is, it feels like it's very timely that we're talking about this, because this can be very healing for ourselves and for each other. It's going to be very healing to help us understand, like, oh, there's all of this, and we can just kind of be with it too, and it's okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very
It all
beautiful.
exists. Yeah. It all exists and it all births itself. We had talked about the nature of things happening in our lives that in the moment they seem perceivably very bad, right? Or very sad or very depressing.
Yeah.
But when we're able to like understand that it's just a part, here we go. It's just a part of a whole thing. And that oftentimes those really low points are creating the possibility of its equal opposite. And so a lot of experiences in life, even the polarization we're experiencing now, if we can experience and feel such depth of polarization and separation, then we intrinsically understand unity, right? And can actually access it with greater ease because polarity creates it's all created by itself. So the polarization creates unification. And we can only know what it feels like to be unified if we actually have an understanding of what it feels like to be separated. And so in some funny way, like, are we catapulting ourselves toward a greater sense of unity by having a drastic understanding of the separation?
Yeah. I love that. That's so beautifully said. And as I speak a lot with from the spirit's perspective, is there's always this continuing elevation into to more love, into a greater capacity of love, a greater understanding of love. That's kind of like the holder of all of this too. So with great destruction is also great creation, even better. It always is
Yeah.
going to be even better. And so that is the beauty of, even with the two dancing together, it still leans into evolution, you know? It still
Yeah.
leans into that phase. And that's where like the magic and the mystic comes in, because as we're experiencing all of this, we're still going this way. And that's quite
Yeah.
fascinating and beautiful. And if we can just trust that somehow, as horrendous as this all may look in front of me, the castles are crumbling down in the world or in your own life, somehow there's going to be something beautiful created out of it, something immensely beautiful, and you'll get to see it. And
Yeah.
and there's so much potential for growth and awareness and understanding, and things coming into your life that you never thought possible, like the gifts that come from giving birth. It's like you have that baby and it's so painful to like have a baby and go through all that experience, but then you get the baby, you get this beautiful being like into the mother's arms too. So um I'm feeling blessed that we all got to be here today and do this in this beautiful um time that we've shared together. And I can see everybody is really enjoying. Angela says so helpful and illuminating too. I know we're getting almost out of time here
Mhm.
too. But there was one thing, because I know you work as a death doula. Would you be able to we should probably have another show on this one. But would you be able to just share just a couple of minutes of what that work is like? Because as a medium, and I know there's a lot of mediums who are on here joining us as well, we get a little bit of from the outside perspective of like, why do you want to deal with death? Like, why do you do that? It's death. And they think it's something sort of dark and oppressive. And I'm just like, no, it's a miracle. I'm connecting with a loved one. I'm bringing the healing to the person who misses, to the grief
Mhm.
of all that too. So what I'm doing is beautiful. I don't see death as dark or anything like that. I see it as something beautiful. So would you be able to give us just a little snippet of your work with that?
I would love to. So on the death doula or death midwife front, there are actually 100 ways that you can practice the art. Because of COVID, right? Like all of a sudden you couldn't actually physically interact with anyone anymore. So what I started doing was working with people who either themselves just received a terminal diagnosis or the children of someone who has just received a terminal diagnosis. And my work with people is to essentially be an anamkara, or someone who walks with you during the transition out of this earth plane. And that looks like spiritual support. That looks like grief support. Like I work with people often, let's say that it's someone my age who is losing a parent. I'll work with them from anywhere from 6 months to a year through that continued process, because the stages of grief are long and confusing. And you can jump from feeling really angry to really depressed to like, I feel fine today. And it's really delicious when you actually have someone who is walking along with you through the stages of grief and loss. One of the more abstract aspects of what I do falls under mediumship, where when someone is preparing to go, they're preparing on this side, but also on the other side. And family members are starting to gather from the other side. Guides are starting to gather on the other side. And the way that I perceive it is that there's like a birth canal, it's a death canal, and it's being prepared for you as you're preparing to leave here. And that as mediums and healers, we actually can assist in preparing that space. One of the things that I do often is create music specifically for people who are dying. And I literally say, listen for me, follow my voice. Like you'll be able, like you won't get lost, I swear. um, and often when I've been hired to work with someone who's dying, um, I can assist them to orient to the other side, because there's periods of time, especially the last couple of weeks, where people are coming in and out of this reality, and they'll go visit the other reality for a minute and then come back. And that by itself can be a lot. And so what I do is I actually practice standing in the middle. So when this person flips and goes into the other side, how is this possible? I'm there. And when they come back here, what? How is that possible? You're here too? And it's like, yeah, because there's actually no separation. And you're starting to, as you're dying, see that there is no separation. But for whatever reason, people like you, Jennifer, and people like myself and other mediums who are watching can understand that we can be very much living and still aware of both sides. And so I've been using that gift specifically with people who are facing that reality now.
Yeah, oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. And you know, I think that's such a beautiful gift that you give to people who are, in transition, or their families as well too. And I try to remind everybody that, every death is sacred, however it happens. Sometimes it's in your sleep, sometimes it's tragically, but it's all sacred.
Yeah.
Even the sudden unexpected ones, there's all sacred, and God is part of all of that, making sure we get to where we're supposed to be,
Yes.
which is into that love and light. So thank you so much, Suri, for joining us. I know there's a lot of beautiful comments. People have really been gifted with your presence. I've got to just knock down the wall right there. So it's been quite a blessing too. Any just last minute words you'd like to leave us with? We're going to put all of your information in the chat box as well.
Thank you. Thank you for witnessing. Thank you for your ears and your attention and your eyes. I am always humbled when I do get to share, right? Because for me, doing this is my greatest joy, but you can't do it in isolation. You need people to share and play with. So I'm humbled and honored that you guys all came and played. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Suri. And I want to thank everybody here for contributing, especially since this was an interactive. Thank you for all of your lovely comments and for helping us out with the polarity mapping too. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? So I promise we'll have Suri back, because I know y'all loved her. So I promise she'll be back, everybody. Craig is a fan. Craig is a fan.
Thanks, Craig.
He does some beautiful healing. He's got a special Cancer Warriors healing team that he's organized too. So he's working in that. So I can see why the two of you have a beautiful synergy of the work that you do, that the different types of work that you both do. And and thank you everybody for joining us today and for spending time with us. I know it's busy. I know it's a Friday. I know the sun is out, but you're here with us, and I'm sure it's been rewarding, and much gratitude for all of you as well. Everybody, please, may all of this love and healing be infinitely multiplied and sent to all beings, all forms of consciousness in this world and beyond, so that everybody can feel loved, everybody can feel safe, everybody can feel peace, everybody can feel grace, and all things magical and beautiful. And may all those who are needing to find home find their way back in the arms of angels. With that, I want to say thank you very much for coming on to Sacred Spiral Network. I love you all very, very much. I will see you next Friday. And please have a beautiful and blessed weekend. And thank you, Suri. Yes, bye, everybody.
Ciao. That was fun.